contribution that the beauty industry was making to the economy. That's how it started. And then we started looking at the beauty industry and we realised there was so much more to it than just the financial contribution. And we started looking at the different aspects of it. And gosh, you know, we just found something we weren't expecting. And then I was talking to Gareth Morgan, a friend of mine, about the APPG and about the work we were doing. And he said, oh, you need to speak to my wife, Jill, because she works with a wonderful organisation. And that was a completely different dimension to the work that we were doing. So hence, you've all ended up here, and we're really grateful to have you here. So, hang on. Dave, I'm on a Zoom. I'm going to start off by introducing Catherine Deakin. Put your hand up so I can see you. Catherine. And then Amba Smith. Amba is a champion from Changing Faces. Catherine is the Director of Fundraising and Communications. That's a posh title. Then we got Natalie Ambersley, who's already had a shock when I shouted that joke because my coffee wasn't quick enough. Lauren Payne, or Avon, we like Avon, was brought up on Pretty Peach. Big Avon fans. And is that it? Is nobody else who's going to be speaking? That's it, is it? Okay. So we're going to start off with,
Sorry, hang on, Louise, do you want to say something, Louise?
Yes, Carolyn, sorry, there should be Tulsi on there as well.
Who?
Tulsi?
Tulsi's here, yeah.
You want to put your hand up, Tulsi?
Tulsi, got it. Thank you, I got it, that's fine. So we're going to start off listening to Catherine. So Catherine, you start us off. That'd be brilliant. David Lloyd just phoned me. Can you phone him back and ask him to?
Thank you so much, Carolyn, and thanks to Carolyn and to Judith and the Secretariat for the opportunity to
Judith, if Judith's not here, she was hoping to join, but she's feeling a little bit under the weather, but she may come in now in a minute.
Brilliant, thank you. And I guess I wanted to kick us off by talking about why Changing Faces work matters. So 1 in 5 of us in the UK today live with some sort of visible difference. So a scar or a mark or condition that makes us look different. And this could be something we're born with, like a birthmark, or it could be something we acquire later in life, such as scarring from an accident or even post-cancer treatment. But sadly, because of how they look, people with visible differences still face exclusion and discrimination in many areas of their lives. 1 in 4 will actually go on to experience a hate crime because of how they look. And what we hear at Changing Faces from our community is the stares, the comments, the rudeness that they have to deal with every day, constantly feeling like people are looking at you, having to check in with themselves every time they go out, even during COVID. Can I do this today? And one of the things we also hear a lot of is that I never see anyone that looks like me on the telly, in films or in magazines. So imagine never seeing yourself as a hero in a film, as a teacher at your school, in an advertising campaign, or even in a leadership position at work. And half of our community tell us that they don't feel represented by brands and companies that they see every day. And the message our community hears is, what is wrong with me to look like this? And the message for wider society is that there's something wrong with that difference. And it gives almost permission for the bullying and trolling and staring that happens far too often. And one of our ambassadors, Catherine, she was 19 when she was in a coach accident and she experienced significant burns. And she told me that when she was in hospital recovering, she couldn't see anyone that looked like her in the beauty magazine she loved to read. And she couldn't see what her life would look like going forward. And we know that those sorts of experiences have such a devastating impact on the mental health of people with visible differences. So 1 in 3 adults living with visible difference will feel depressed or sad or anxious because of how they look. And Changing Faces is the only UK charity really kind of providing that free counselling support for children or young people or adults who have a visible difference and need more help to cope. And with NHS mental health services really being stretched by COVID, we know sadly thousands of people are being turned away from getting the mental health services that they need or waiting too long for treatment. And without Changing Faces, there's simply no one else there to support them. But we can't do it alone. So we created our Pledge to be Seen campaign, which is calling on companies and brands to change the way they represent and support people with a visible difference. And we were so proud to launch this as campaign by announcing our partnership with the lovely Avon in March last year. And our partnership launch actually featured Catherine, who I mentioned earlier, and Lauren from Avon will come on to talk a bit more about that. But the launch alone reached over 2 billion people across social media and in the newspapers. But Catherine told me if it meant one young girl or woman who had a visible difference had seen the campaign and felt seen and felt heard, that it would have been worth it. And seeing the response from the general public has been amazing. It's showing that the direction is changing, and we kind of feel that if there's ever been a moment to talk about looking different and to talk about diversity, it's now. So thank you for holding this debate, and thank you so much for listening. And I do hope everyone can get involved and help us lead this change. So I'm now going to pause and maybe hand over to our wonderful campaigner, Amber, when everyone's ready. Thank you.
Amber, over to you, my love.
Thank you. So I'm Amber, and my visible difference is an extensive birthmark from my head to my toes. Most people know it as Sturge-Weber syndrome or poor wine stain. And I'm a qualified beauty therapist, and at the moment I'm currently training at college to become a professional makeup artist. I knew when I was first different, a few months after starting school, so I was around the age of 5 or 6, and I just had a procedure known as laser treatment on my face. So I went back to school, and that's when the name calling started, just because I had obviously lots of big purple spots on my face from that's of the lasers. It didn't last too long. It was only a few weeks until my skin healed up and went back to, you know, its usual shade. But then a few weeks after, obviously, that stopped with the treatment obviously settling down. That's when I got my first camouflage kit. I would only use it, you know, just for like play makeup and when doing dress up and stuff like that. But then as I got older, it was more used for special occasions, like meals and birthdays and stuff like that. Like many young girls at the age of 12, 13, I started to wear makeup to school. When I was in secondary school, I wouldn't wear my camouflage. I would just wear like the drugstore makeup, just like what my friends at the time were using, just so I could feel, you know, included with them. For a long time, I would use makeup to, you know, make myself feel beautiful, to cover up what I thought were my imperfections. And it was for a very, very long time I would do that daily, until I was probably about 17 when I started college, and that's when I started my beauty therapy course. And then I learned obviously why I would wear makeup. It wasn't for other people's approval. It wasn't because I didn't feel beautiful with my skin. It was so I would feel confident. And with that, you know, I was going to college every day on the train on my own and going around town and stuff like that with, you know, my mask on, because I felt so much more me doing that, and it gave me so much more kind of ambition to keep carrying on and to go out and, you know, do the stuff which I wanted to do at college. So then obviously when I was at college, I talked quite a lot to my classmates about obviously having a visible differences and, you know, going into beauty salons and makeup studios and feeling that pressure and that kind of embarrassment to go in for a treatment. And, you know, I would share some of my experiences with them, with my classmates, obviously hoping that, you know, they would learn from that, from going obviously into industry after we qualified, and, you know, not making anyone feel the way, you know, I felt at, you know, the age of 12, 13 years old, going and wanting to be like other young women, having beauty treatments and, you know, doing the normal stuff what teenage girls do. So as I said, I'm currently at college doing makeup now, and in one of our units we're doing camouflage makeup. So and we're doing that pretty much right now. So I've been, getting up in front of the class, this new class, and telling them obviously about my birthmark and what covering up with camouflage means to me, because it's not just about obviously putting on the camouflage, it's quite an emotional side as well, of seeing a complete different look from what you're obviously used to, and for obviously the future, I just kind of want to keep making sure that people in training situations are known to of the visible differences, and not just because they have someone like me in their group. I think that it needs to be more advertised and not just skim over it within the learning curriculum, just go more in depth of maybe the emotional side, obviously what I had to deal with obviously growing up, and going obviously into industry, and being in the industry as well as receiving treatment as well. Thank you.
Amber, thank you so much. I really appreciated that. I appreciate your honesty, and you are a beautiful young lady. Believe you me, you are a beautiful woman.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're going to go next to Natalie. She who shocks easily.
Yes, I am. I am shocked very easily, it seems. Hi, everyone. So, yes, I'm Natalie, and I have the skin condition vitiligo, which is a lack of pigment in the skin, so it causes white patches on the skin. It's a condition that I've had since I was 3 years old, so I don't know a life without it. And if I'm honest, life with a condition of this type was very, very difficult. As a child, I didn't really realise that I had the condition because I wasn't really aware that you could look different to other people. I just saw people as people. But I think for me, the problems really started when I became a teenager, and I became very aware that, people can look a particular way and can be judged because of how they looked. So it was around 13, 14 that I started to become very shy. I was very, very quiet. I lacked confidence and I lacked self-esteem. And I constantly felt like I was being judged because I had a skin condition that didn't look like everybody else's. So one of the things that really was a poignant memory for me was looking through women's magazines and girls' magazines at the time. And I would never see models or, beauty models being represented that looked like me. Everybody looked the same. They had fair skin, beautiful, perfect skin. They didn't have any visible differences, and they certainly didn't have vitiligo. So I think that's when I really started to get a complex, and I started to understand that people like me weren't worth being represented. And I think that's when I really, really started to become very, very uncomfortable about having the condition. Having vitiligo affected most areas of my life, everything from dating to being able to go swimming and wear a swimsuit, going on beach holidays, even going on job interviews was quite hard because I felt like people were noticing my skin before they were noticing me as a person. So I really, really did struggle. So at the age of around 15, I started to experiment with makeup. I started to use camouflage makeup. And back then, we're talking sort of the 90s, there weren't many colours available. There was around about 15, 16 colours available. And because I'm also mixed race, it was really, really hard to match my skin up to a colour that would work for me. And I remember the makeup was very, very thick, and it used to make me feel as though I was melting under the sun. So it was something that was a very, very temporary coverage for me. After that, I moved on to fake tan, which I used quite obsessively. So whilst most women and most girls were out there buying handbags and shoes, I was investing heavily in fake tan. I would work through bottles and bottles of the stuff because it became the only way that I was able to conceal my skin. And still at this point, I wasn't being represented in the media and I wasn't being represented in magazines. So I was still very much aware that my skin wasn't desirable. I tried my hardest to cover my skin up, but it wasn't successful. And often I would just have to kind of go without and face the world without anything on my skin. I used to love facials and massages in my early 20s, But again, as part of the beauty industry, one of the things that I've often had to do, or felt like I had to do, was warn people that I had a skin condition, because it was almost like if I didn't warn people, I didn't want to shock them. So I just wanted to prepare them for the fact that I had this skin condition and I didn't want you to be shocked by it. One of the things often people thought was that it was contagious. There's a lot of misconceptions around vitiligo, that it's contagious or that my skin has been burnt. So I constantly felt like I had to justify what was on my skin. So it, you know, it was really, really hard. You know, simple things like painting my nails was quite hard, because I felt like wearing certain colours would make my hands look very, very white and just bring attention to my hands. So there were so many areas around beauty that affected me, things that, you know, often people wouldn't even think about. So it was really, really hard. I started to accept my skin in my early 30s. I started to work on my mindset, and I started to use social media quite a bit, and that's when I started to meet other people with skin conditions and visible differences, and it made life a lot easier, because it meant that the support was out there and there was a community that was able to grow, because we was able to support each other and talk to each other. So that really, really did help. But I still think a lot has to be done in terms of brands representing people like myself. I think, you know, things are changing, and thankfully there are brands that are investing in people that do have visible differences, but I do still think that a lot more can be done. We are part of the beauty industry. There's no reason why people like us can't enjoy wearing foundation and beauty products. So I think that to create this idea that the real society out there isn't just one particular person. The real representation of society is people with visible differences, people with skin conditions, and people without. We all need to feel represented. There needs to be more diversity, and we all need to see each other being represented in the media.
Natalie, you're inspirational. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Tulsi, the one with the beautiful hair. My God, your hair is stunning. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Hi, everybody. So I'm Tulsi. I got my burn scars when I was 10 years old in a plane crash. So I lost my family. I was traveling in India, and in a split second, life as I knew it changed. My grandmother, who I left back in the UK, was out in India, and she said to me, you look different and your parents have passed away. To me, that didn't mean anything, because what does looking different actually mean? You know, because here I am on the plane with my family, and next thing I look different. I'm flown back to the UK. I'm greeted with my other extended family, cousins and aunties. And amongst crying, obviously, they were like, you've lost your family and you look different. So yet again, they're talking about me looking different. In my head, I actually thought they've just come to surprise me on the plane, and they're going to join me on holiday. About 4 to 6 weeks after my accident, the nurses and the doctors said, we're going to take the bandages off from your eyes. And I said, I can't wait to see myself in the mirror. To which, like, the nurse was quite concerned, thinking, how can someone be so excited to see themselves in the mirror, knowing that something big has happened? I think because internally I still felt like myself. Around my family, I was just still Tulsi. But anyway, they took the bandages off, checked my eyes, and I was so eager to see myself in the mirror. Only they held the mirror up, and the person in the mirror wasn't me. I actually thought somebody drew this face on, because no way can someone actually look like this. And the reality hit as the person in the mirror was blinking their eyes and moving their lips, and I soon realized that's me. I looked down at my left hand, which is extensively burnt, and I had metal rods sticking out of my fingers to straighten them, and my scars were like red raw, and it hit me then that something has happened. Now, whether I was naive or optimistic, but I actually thought in a year's time there's going to be this magic cloth and the scars will go away. So obviously in hospital, everyone just treated me as me, because, you know, this is what they see day in, day out. My family have now got used to me looking this way. So it's now when I'm discharged from hospital, the journey to and from hospital, the journey to and from school, me out in my local communities when the staring has started. people crossing the road in case they caught something. Name calling was just part and parcel of growing up, which to an extent felt like this is going to be my norm. However, it's unacceptable. You know, this shouldn't be my norm. This shouldn't be anyone's norm. But that's what I felt, because I didn't feel like I had any support. So, you know, people calling me names, every day checking in with myself. What am I going to face today? So it was really tough growing up. I couldn't even share this with my friends because, like Natalie was talking about, you know, makeup, even Amber mentioned it. It's what I wanted to experiment with. But every time I used makeup, I just felt like I looked like a clown because, again, having, you know, sort of Asian skin tone, there wasn't any ideal color match. I just looked awful. I had no experience with makeup and I wanted to cover up. I really did. But the more I covered up, the more of a spectacle I kind of made of myself. So that was really tough and I couldn't really relate to my peers. So I guess, you know, growing up and feeling isolated, I didn't really know who to turn to. And it was quite fortunate that I did meet Changing Faces quite early on in my journey. But I think, like, mentally, I just wasn't ready to access that information because it's almost like I didn't want to deal with the fact that I've got these burns. I just want to be normal. I don't want to be talking about this. So I didn't really use their services. And now fast forward however many years later, you know, I'm an ambassador for them. They're a fantastic charity who've actually really helped me with my confidence. And just recently, I mean, when I say recently, about 4 to 5 years ago, I had an opportunity to have camouflage makeup. So again, it's not something I really experimented with. And, you know, like Natalie said, looking in a magazine, there isn't someone who looks like you. And same, like, especially in the South Asian community, everything is, we brush it under the carpet. We don't deal with it. I got all the name calling. I got that pressure of no one's going to look at you. You're never going to get married. You're never going to date. No one wants to employ you. Look at the state of you. You know, it's very much, that's what I grew up with. So about 5, 6 years ago, when I had the opportunity to try camouflage makeup. So I tried it on my left arm, which is quite extensively burnt. And as the makeup was going on, I started to get a panic attack because I suddenly couldn't see the colors and textures of my arm. And the practitioner was like, she thought I had a reaction to the makeup. And I said, no, I can't cover up anymore. I need to get this off. I can't deal with the fact I can't see my colors and textures of my arm. And that's the day I changed that I don't want to cover up. But that doesn't mean that I don't wear makeup. That doesn't mean I don't want to look beautiful, but I just choose now when I want to cover up or how I want to enhance my scars. And I think that's another thing. It's this presumption that we all want to cover up, but it's not about covering up. I now wear makeup to enhance my features, and I want to empower young women, men, and, you know, young girls that you don't actually have to cover up, but you have a choice, that there are things out there for you to use. And this is what, you know, being about the fashion and beauty industry is about, is having a choice. Because at the moment, there's very limited choice. There's no one who looks like me out there, you know, South Asian with burns. But, you know, it's amazing, like a campaign like Pledge to Be Seen is out there. Thank you, Avon, for, you know, being out there and standing out and supporting us, especially with Changing Faces, because being a model with you guys was something really empowering for myself. You know, I do a lot of, you know, catwalks and fashion shows and things like that, but working with you guys has been amazing because you actually make us feel included, not because we're special or anything, but as everybody else, you just help us feel really good about ourselves. And I think that's what we need from more brands, that they just make us feel good, not because we look different, but because we're an integrative part of this society, you know. So yeah, that's my experience with Avon. I've been doing amazing campaign work with Changing Faces. And each time we do a campaign, my gosh, the reactions we get, the comments, it's just been phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Tulsi, can I say, you are special and your uniqueness makes you very, very special. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, over to you.
Thank you, and thanks so much for inviting me to join today. It really is an honour to be speaking alongside Tulsi, Amber and Natalie, and I've had the pleasure of working with Tulsi in a number of campaigns, and every time you speak, Tulsi, you move me, so thank you. So as Catherine mentioned up top, last year Avon became the first beauty brand to partner with Changing Faces as we signed the Pledge to be Seen movement. And this was off the back of research from Changing Faces that saw that half of people living with visible differences felt underrepresented or not represented by beauty brands. So we wanted to change this together with Changing Faces and proudly partnered with them to represent more people with visible differences. And that was across our online campaigns, our digital campaigns, social media, and of course the iconic Avon brochure. And we had one shared goal with Changing Faces, and that was, as you've heard from ambassadors today, empower people who look different and show that everybody has the freedom to express themselves through beauty. So we began this mission in March last year with our nudes campaign, which you can see with Catherine Pugh, one of the fabulous ambassadors we've had the honour of working with. And then we continued this later in July last year with Tulsi, who joined us to celebrate Avon's 60th anniversary in the UK. We've continued this year as we marked Face Equality Week with the launch of Her Story, which is one of our best-selling fragrances this year. And that featured 5 Changing Faces ambassadors, Tulsi included. And it highlighted that everybody has a story to share, and it's our uniqueness that makes us beautiful. So as you can kind of gain from that snapshot into those 3 campaigns, not only has it been the imagery that's been powerful and thought-provoking, it's been the stories of ambassadors from Changing Faces that has been at the heart of the partnership we have with Changing Faces, and that's what has made people stop in their tracks. And we know that too often than not, these stories are either sensationalised in the media, ignored by the media, or included as a tokenistic gesture by brands. And that's not what our partnership is about. We want this to be not only about representing people, but telling real life stories to empower women through beauty. And the partnership has done that through the launch of the nudes campaign and the press coverage that you can see on the screen. We reached 2 billion people externally, and we were nominated for a Lifetime Achievement Award in Vogue magazine. But perhaps the most impactful result of the partnership is the engagement that we've had with the Visible Difference community and Avon's community. So we're really proud to be a brand that's, I suppose, been cemented on community. For 130 years across the world, we've championed women and inclusivity for all. And that's because our representatives are at the heart of this. The real women going out and building a network of customers and making beauty more accessible for people. So when we launched our partnership with Changing Faces, we took the time to reach out to representatives through training, webinars, videos created in partnership with the charity to make sure that our reps were educated about people with visible differences, but also could have a conversation about inclusivity in beauty. And for me, that's really shaken up the partnership and really meant that we're a leader in inclusivity for all. As a result of that, what we saw is representatives and employees come forward and share their own stories of living with a visible difference and how Avon has actually made beauty accessible to them. You know, if you think of the most traditional way of Avon that we're probably all familiar with, you've got women going into each other's homes and therefore making beauty a safe space where it's accessible and perhaps not an intimidating beauty counter experience. But we want that to extend to other brands as well, whether online or face-to-face, that show that there's a place for beauty for all. So outside of campaigning, we've been proud to donate £50,000 directly in support of Changing Faces Helpline, which takes calls directly from people with a visible difference struggling to cope. And we know that the charity has seen a sharp rise in number of calls since lockdown measures were announced. So this year, we also launched a number of products like our face coverings that had a donation to Changing Faces to make sure that they could continue to fund their vital services. And I just wanted to end by saying, through every step of this partnership, we have worked so closely with Catherine and the team of Changing Faces, but perhaps more crucially, the ambassadors, 5 of which you can see here, to make sure that they have been involved at the heart of it. From conception of our campaigns, like the Her Story one here, through to creation and the launch, we want to make sure that their stories are at the heart of it, so that we're not just normalising people with visible differences. It is normal, everybody everybody's normal. It's celebrating people's uniqueness and showing that there is a place for everybody to be beautiful and to share everybody's beauty in their unique forms. For me personally, it's been a real career highlight actually to work with changing faces and meet people like Tulsi, Brenda, Rona, Paulette and Catherine on the sheet you can see here, and all of us at Avon are continued to committing to this partnership long term and changing the beauty industry for all.
Wow, what a story. That's absolutely fantastic. I am so privileged that somebody told me about this organisation. It is truly phenomenal. I'm quite choked actually. I've got a couple of questions. The first one is a basic one. Most of you have talked about camouflage makeup. Enlighten me, what is camouflage makeup? Natalie, come on.
Yeah,
You're
sure,
going to know all about this.
We're just going, this is like a hot topic for me. So camouflage makeup is probably a slightly heavier makeup than day-to-day makeup. So you use it to camouflage things like scars, vitiligo, maybe a birthmark on your skin. So it's not like everyday makeup. You normally get prescribed it. So I used to get it from my doctors or from my GP. And sometimes you can get away with using one colour on your skin, or sometimes you might need to mix colours to make the right colour for your skin tone. But as I mentioned before, it's normally quite thick. It kind of reminds me of sort of theatre style makeup. So it's a little bit thicker in texture. But there are some great brands out there. I know Changing Faces obviously have practitioners who do makeup classes, but it's great makeup to help camouflage.
Okay. Back when I was a kid, don't ask me why, but I mean, there wasn't a massive choice of makeup, and I used to use Leishner, and that was very clammy and very thick. It was stage makeup, you know, and I used to use that, so I get when it's quite thick. So who makes camouflage makeup? Do the mainstream companies make it, or do Avon make it, or is it medically produced?
I'll take this
Catherine.
one. So there's a number of brands that produce a specific camouflage makeup, but there's lots of over-the-counter products that can also work too. So as Natalie said, we run the UK's only skin camouflage service. So we have trained practitioners who are accredited by the Royal College of Nursing, who have an hour consultation with someone who's looking to maybe the thing, and they will go through and look at these kind of clinically prescribed makeup, what works, do a bit of a catch. But at the moment, because of COVID, that's been paused. Working at the moment actually to look at how we can do more. We're actually working with Avon on a video about how we can support to apply makeup online too.
Okay, that's something that we may be able to help you with as an APPG, and I'd be happy to do whatever I can on that one. Can we talk a little bit about, I want to talk about children. I want to talk about children who maybe are not accessing the kinds of services that you are actually offering, and what more can we do to actually get that message into schools, into parents' minds, that there is something that we can, if they want to go down that road. So what kind of work is being done around that?
I take that one again, and it'd be great to hear from some of our ambassadors about their childhood experiences too. But we provide, at the moment, we provide a service specifically for children and young people. It's based out of a hub in Sheffield. We know that obviously we have around 86,000 children who have some kind of visible difference across the UK. But actually the NHS services are very stretched, and particularly for children with skin conditions. There was a report launched only a week or so ago by the APPG for skin, showing that actually that specialist counselling support and mental health support just isn't there for children who have skin conditions like vitiligo or even acne. That help isn't there. So we've got a service that is supporting children. We're actually looking to roll that out across the UK next year, but we would love to see more support from NHS England, have a conversation with them about how we can better support more children.
And NHS Wales.
And NHS Wales as well, because we know that up to half of children who have a visible difference will be bullied at school.
Yeah, and that's what bothers me. I mean, if you're unaware that there is stuff that you can use, you know, you guys have been down this road. You know what it's like to be the first person to discover there's something you want to change. For me, it was always my size. You know, I was always a plump child, and you know, I think whether it was my size or whether it's cultural, I don't know, but I've always suffered with an imposter syndrome, and even now I suffer with imposter syndrome. So I can only begin to imagine how difficult life can be. And Tulsi, I lost my son when he was 8, so I do understand entirely the loss of losing someone and your whole life being changed completely. It's something that you never ever get over, and to come where you've come from to where you are is phenomenally wonderful, and just a huge congratulations to you. What, as a politician, can I do, one, to help every single one of you individually, the charity, and Avon? I mean, I'd love Avon to be part of our APPG, because we've got, Lauren, we'll talk this about you in when everybody goes offline, if you can stay on for 5 minutes or something, so we can have a chat to you about the APPG. But what work can I do? What can I be asking in the chamber that will help you guys to raise your profile and to get help for you as an organisation and for each and every person who needs your services? Catherine, it's back to you. Go on. And Natalie, come on, hit me with it.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, one of the things that I strive to do for myself and for Changing Faces is about raising awareness and educating others. There's a lot of misconceptions about, you know, in particular about what vitiligo is, and I want people to know what the condition is. I don't want people to think it's contagious or that it hurts or that it causes any pain. So for me, it is about educating and making sure people are aware that these conditions exist and that we are a very normal, healthy part of society, and that we're not different. We're just unique. So education and raising awareness is key, I think.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd say the same as well, like education and awareness. You know, I was fortunate to be part of a campaign with Changing Faces where we did I'm Not Your Villain. And again, it's that misconception that someone like me is like, you know, someone to be feared. So again, using people like, you know, someone with a scar in a movie as a villain, it's kind of filtered down, you know, into our society. So
stereotyping, isn't it?
Completely. So if they walk past me on the street, it's almost like, oh my God, I'm going to catch something, or you're going to do something atrocious to me. So that just needs a lot more awareness and education. And yes, us doing campaigns like this is fantastic, but we need it a bit more mainstream and out there. And, you know, in terms of the beauty industry, again, it's the same thing. Like, I had to prep some of my therapists to just say, by the way, I've got burns. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to massage it, just so that they're not uncomfortable. But I shouldn't have to really do that, because there's nothing wrong with my skin. Nothing's going to happen to the practitioner, but I felt I had to justify why I look the way I do.
So how do we change that then? Do we introduce something into the curriculum for beauty therapists? Do we, you know, what do we do to make that better? Oh, Catherine, you were nodding.
Yeah, because we've introduced, I think we've referenced it, the Pledge to Be Seen campaign. So it's 3 steps for companies and brands to get involved. So basically we're calling on more brands and companies and individuals to pledge over the next year to better support and represent people with a visible difference. So that could be anything from, like Avon, featuring models with a visible difference in their advertising campaign, or it could be looking at your recruitment processes and thinking, am I doing anything at the moment which is excluding people with a visible difference? Or even, you know, with training and support, going back and thinking again, what training can we do to support our therapists to better understand the needs of people with visible difference? And that's where we can help. So what we're really calling on for is for more people to sign up to the pledge and get in touch with us, because it's only when we have more people.
Right, so where's this pledge to?
So we've got a page on our website which people can complete a really simple form, and that means people can get in touch with us, and we'll then pick up with them how they can sign the pledge form and how they can get involved.
And what does the pledge involve?
So it's basically they sign up to the pledge, they tell us what activity they're going to do over the next year to realise it. So it could be something like changing their recruitment policy or advertising with a model with a visible difference, and we're there to help them do that. We realise you don't have to do it alone, and then it's sharing it inside their company and externally. So that's what Avon's managed to do. You know, they've reached 2 billion people saying, look, this work is really important, and if we have more companies and brands involved, it would be really incredible in terms of the...
When you say companies, it could be any company, or could it be any workplace?
Any size, any company. We've got teeny tiny companies involved to bigger brands like Avon. So we've currently got around 40 companies signed up, but we need more.
It's about recruiting people to actually employ people with visible difference and provide.
So that could be one of the things that a company does. If they don't really have any advertising or marketing stuff come up, it could be as simple as kind of thinking when they're advertising their next job, how can they make the process better for people with visible difference? I mean, Natalie mentioned when someone goes into an interview room with a visible difference, they're having to bring, someone might be looking at them before they've even said anything.
What I'm trying to get at you is I put in for a business question, Kath, for tomorrow. And if I get one, what could we do tomorrow? I'm not saying I'll get the question, but if I do, what could I do? What could I say tomorrow in business questions? Because Rees-Mogg's going to give me a decent answer that I can say to him, can we blah de blah, and it starts getting this issue on the agenda.
That'd be amazing. And I think it's around saying about the getting people to sign up the pledge, and better present people, whether it's through their advertising, marketing, or recruitment.
If I do get called, maybe Catherine Morgan and Catherine Deakin and I can come up with, maybe I could just say something as simple as, will the leader of the house join me in congratulating Changing Faces and Avon on their campaign, blah de blah, and ask him to encourage the house authorities to look at signing the pledge.
That would be incredible.
Kath Morgan, what do you think?
Sounds really good. Have you reached out, Catherine, to lots of large corporates then to ask them to sign your pledge?
Yeah, so we have done some reaching out. So we've reached out to some companies who are doing really well in the inclusivity space, like Avon, but we've also reached out to companies where we think actually we can really help them solve a bit of the business problem here, because 1 in 5 of their customers, whether they're going through into stores or shopping online, they'll have a visible difference. And as Tulsi said, see yourself, you don't resonate with that brand. So
I've made the first Catherine, of the business question, so there's a reasonable chance I will have one in the morning.
Amazing. So
if we will know by about 5-6 o'clock. And Kath Morgan, can we have a think about, and I will mention, I'll do it on Changing Faces tomorrow.
That's amazing, thank you, Catherine.
I'm just wondering, Catherine, if there's more the government can do to get people to sign up to this pledge. Can the government, should they be writing to people or businesses to encourage them to sign up to this pledge, or is there something that you're asking government to do that we can support?
Well, we know that there's there are protections in the Equalities Act already for, so disfigurement is recognised under disability. So, employers should already be thinking about this issue. But absolutely, if we can encourage more people to kind of sign the pledge and take concrete action in the next year, I mean, if we get it right for people with visible differences, we're getting it right for everyone. So the basic principles of good customer service.
So the question is sort of, will the speaker, Carolyn, you know how to do it, join with me in encouraging organisations to sign.
And if I know I'm on the order paper, I will find Jacob in the vote tonight. Make sure he knows what I'm going to ask, and he will go and come back with a really good answer for me. So let's presume I've got the question, and can you speak to Kath Deakin about maybe what I'm going to be saying?
Yeah.
And I know as chair of the APPG, would he blah de blah de blah?
Yeah.
And we get, I mean, I'll mention this session or something. We'll find a way of getting it all in as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But let's keep our fingers crossed that I do get onto the CAT tomorrow. That's brilliant.
And I wonder if we should write to government as well, but we should probably write to BAYS and Department of Health and ask what steps Carolyn and Judith could ask what steps they're taking to ensure that people with visible differences are being supported and encouraged into the work.
We write as an APPG.
Yeah, Catherine, if you can send us some things that we can ask, that would be very helpful. We want to ask the right things to help you.
Yeah, definitely. And what more can the beauty industry do to support you? Lauren?
Well, I think for us at Avon, we signed the pledge to be seen as really to lead the way. We don't want this to be exclusive to Avon. We're so proud of the work we've done, but we want others to follow in our footsteps. And I suppose my message and Avon's message to the beauty industry is that, I suppose, as Catherine said, if we're doing this for visible differences, we're doing it for everybody. It's not difficult to do. You know, there are thousands of people, millions of people that identify as having a visible difference, and we should be representing them not only in our campaigns, but in our workplaces. And one of the most inspiring things that's come out of the partnership is we've had a few colleagues in our head office here in Northampton come forward and say, we are so proud to hear you're partnering in Changing Faces, because we never thought we could work for a beauty company by having a visible difference. And that just shows how much times have changed, but we still need to do more. And I think it gives you such a powerful platform as a beauty brand to speak about what beauty is. Beauty is different and unique to everybody, and it gives you such an amazing platform to have a voice, like you've seen how many people it's reached, the campaign. So I think it brings a fresh perspective to beauty, and it just cements the fact that your brand is inclusive.
Yeah, I just want to say something as well. Like, for me, you know, beauty isn't one size fits all, but yet we've kind of been conditioned that it is. So then anyone who has a visible difference pulse and an invisible scar, they never feel like they're good enough because there isn't someone out there representing them. And so just for me, like, I've got many people who follow me, especially, like, again, I reiterate the point, like in the South Asian community, and they look up to him just saying, thank you so much. Now I can look good because I know you're out there doing something to fight for us. Yes, we don't have a visible scar, but we have an invisible scar, because every time you're putting yourself out there, it's helping us accept who we are, because they might be getting bullied because of their social media, their peers and all of that. And so it's so crucial that we get this right, so that it paves the way for so many people who don't have a visible difference but have an invisible scar. And I mean, I wear my scar on the outside, but no one sees my scars on the inside. So to be represented and be treated fairly is helping heal those invisible scars as well.
Brilliant. That's phenomenal. Well, I haven't got any more questions. Has anyone got any questions for me?
I just wonder whether Amber, because Amber is obviously training to go into the beauty industry, I'd just be really interested, obviously, on that point about what more can be done. I mean, you're right in there, Amber, at the very beginning. Is there anything that you'd reflect in terms of what you want your colleagues to be able to do?
So I've been at college, well, I've been at a few different colleges for 3 years now, and each, you know, group has had about 20 people in. So each year I've kind of stood up and, you know, shared my story, and like Tulsi says, you know, the scars inside, and, you know, it's not just about, you know, covering them up. It's, you know, about explaining them and, you know, sharing them, and it's more emotional side of, you know, covering the stuff, you know, on the outside of the skin rather than the inside. And I mean, like, there's been quite a few, like, beauty brands that have come into college, you know, do talks, and, you know, then I've got in front of them and you know, said about, obviously, my skin, and, you know, they've then took that back to, you know, their head office, and, you know, kind of explained, obviously, what probably their brand could do a lot better. So on my previous beauty therapy course, we had Dermalogica come in every year. So, you know, they would come, and I would obviously get up and say, obviously, about living with a visible difference, is what it's like been in the beauty community, and, you know, going to have a treatment done. And, you know, they've then took that back, and they've reflected on, you know, how they could improve their services to maybe not make them as nerve-wracking or embarrassing for people who do have a visible difference. You know, take that makeup off, and to, you know, share with them, and, you know, connect with them during the treatment, and so they're not feeling as, you know, ashamed or embarrassed of their skin, and, you know, it's just a place for them to, you know, go out and chill and, you know, have a nice treatment. So that's been quite important to me, to obviously get out there to obviously my classmates and the tutors, obviously, who've been on the courses with me.
Lovely, thanks, Amber. Kath Morgan, you wanted to say something, did you?
Yeah, I always want to ask a question. Yeah, I was just interested in the corporates that you'd engage with, Catherine. I don't know if you're able to share that list, but we're really interested to see that and see if there's any way we can help you in terms of your corporate outreach as well. We work with quite a few different organisations like John Lewis and others, and you can imagine this would fit quite well with the work that they do.
Great, I'll share that list with you.
If that's any help, very happy to help.
Well, Kath, if the two Kaths can keep in touch today, in case I get the call, and we can sort a question out. And if Laura can stay on the call just for 2 minutes, so we can have a quick chat. Other than that, you all inspire me. Wonderful, wonderful people. And anything at all I can do for you, anything at all, Jill knows how to get out to me. I'm more than happy to do anything I can to support you and to support the wonderful work that you're all doing.
So much.
Thanks, guys.
Amazing story. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.